Welcome back. This, of course, is K24 This Morning. We're looking at the big stories of the day right here. Welcoming your feedback as well at K24 TV. You can also SMS us on 21222. Look at them really quickly. Joseph A. Mle saying, a very peaceful time we had politically. Sasa wacha makelele isiendele. Let us talk about how to make money. Okay, fine. Joseph A. Mle, we hear you on that. Dale Omusembe, watching from Upper Central Estate, Mumias. Hashtag K24 This Morning. We also have at Nelson Kipkor. Moi was a great leader in his tenure. People were patriotic. I remember how people valued the national anthem. In my primary school days, people could stand at attention on the road when they see a flag being raised at the school. That was great respect. We don't even see that nowadays. Okay, keep those tweets coming in. You can get us at K24 TV. That's our Twitter handle. Also, you can get us on Facebook. If you want to send us a WhatsApp message, the WhatsApp number will be scrolling at the bottom of your screen. But as we took the break, we're talking about the fact that, okay, fine, we've come to the point of our national mourning, and we're past that particular point. How do you move from here moving forward, Dr. Halwale? Because some people are saying now it's back to factory settings. From where we had left it off before the passing on of the late president, that noise and cacophony in the political circles right back this weekend. What's your take? Was this a time for all politicians to reflect and think that probably we need to change our style, our tone of what we're doing in our rallies, in our politics in general? What is your take?
No, I don't think it was a time for reflecting. It is because a major cog in the succession will has come out. Moi was a major cog. We have some players in the so-called BBI who had factored in the Moi factor. And now that he was out, they were in that shock that how are things going to rearrange and arrange themselves. By this I mean that there are many who believe that inside the BBI we have a power-sharing formula. And in that power-sharing formula, Moi had been factored in to make things work out easily for those power-sharing formula players in the Rift Valley, so to speak.
Right.
Unfortunately for them, the actual beneficiary was supposed to be Gideon Moi, but he did not have the political wherewithal, the political cloud that would excite and move the Rift Valley. He was banking on his father. So now that the guy was gone, people were shocked. And it might take slightly more than this 1 week. I was not therefore surprised that the Secretary General of Kano, my good friend Nick Salat, announced yesterday that they want to do another 40 days.
Right.
I think you heard him.
Yes,
it is because they don't know how to manage the situation, so they want to make another 40 days to see if they can shoo people into thinking that Gideon Moi is now the head of the community and the region.
Right.
How I wish they would ask some of the people who practice real politics. As far as I'm concerned, at 4 p.m. or thereabout yesterday, it marked the end of the Gideon Moi style of politics, of using your father so that you get what you want.
So you feel at this point he has to be his own man now?
Yeah, no, he has to. He unfortunately has to come to our level now and ask us, how do you normally do it? You have been doing it without your father.
Right.
Unfortunately, he has quite a number of years to learn, because many of his competitors have, from day one, they didn't start with the father. But now, he's got a job on his hands.
Okay, and we're talking about that, of course, because as we saw during that particular ceremony, he was also handed over the baton of political succession for the whole country to see. So I think that was also trying to bolster that particular image.
That's exactly the shock that I'm speaking to. Because that baton, it is not the symbol of power of the presidency in Kenya. The symbol of power of the president, the sword, was given by Moi to Mwai Kibaki to Uhuru. That was a family thing. But when I looked at my good friend Gideon Moi, look at that rungu, it was clear that he thought he was inheriting some form of power. He was just being allowed to be the spokesperson of the family.
Right.
Not even of the community, not even of the region.
What's your take on that?
People is loved and hated in equal measures.
Right. So it's a blessing and a curse.
Yes, because it's the fimbo that Nyayo ruled with. So if you went on the wrong side of Nyayo, you'd taste the wrath of that fimbo. If you went on the right side, it will help you to overcome so many barriers.
Right.
So it depends on how Gideon. For one, the family was very symbolic when they handed over to the youngest son of Moi, that fimbo. So they agreed, they were in agreement that though you are the youngest, politically you are the oldest, you are the senior most. So there was, and that, you know, quashed the ideas people had that immediately Moi will be buried, there will be quarrels in the family about how they are going to share his inheritance and all that. You know, we saw a family that is united.
Right.
So when he got this fimbo, it now depends on what he's going to do with the fimbo. Whether he's going to use the wrath of that fimbo, or he's going to use it symbolically to propagate the Nyayo philosophy. Because the Nyayo philosophy came from President Jomo Kenyatta. So when President Kenyatta was elected, he said he's going to follow Kenyatta's Nyayo,
right,
you know, to take the country forward.
Right.
So if Gideon wants now to use it again to propagate the Nyayo philosophy, he could use it in the right direction.
Right.
But you know, politics does not always happen the way we expect. So I don't know how he's going to use it,
right,
but if he uses it right, it may help him in future in politics.
Okay. Millie, as you can see already, people putting this to the side. We're going to be having BBI steering committee having a meeting with institutional stakeholders, Youth for BBI, parliamentary liaison committee. So you can see we're back on track,
yes,
as far as this is concerned.
Yes, because
how do you see this happening now?
One thing which we must not forget is that Kenyans are very political.
Right.
I remember, because I work in the region, at one time when there was elections in Tanzania, and I arrived, and the taxi man I was trying to get, because in Kenya, you know, if you take a taxi from airport to wherever you're going, by the time you reach, you know everything about the politics in Kenya.
Right.
And I was talking to the taxi man, and he had no clue. He said, yes, I am aware that there is supposed to be some election, but I don't know when the date is. It's very different in the countries around the region as compared to Kenya. We love politics. We talk about politics all the time. And should anything take a political angle, then it begins to become a national discussion and promotes excitement. So BBI was just that. I think when we talk about political temperatures, sometimes I fail to quite understand where we are getting at, because I think that it's political discourse. Because people are talking, people are engaging, and the rumors, I was in some committee meeting the other day when they were strategizing and looking at different scenarios. And one of the things that I was able to relate to the team, and they did see it as fit, was that we cannot say that where Kenya is today is similar to where we were in 2007, when the politics was a discourse targeting one community, or 2017, when the politics was discourse targeting two communities that people felt had come together. Right now, even those two communities are on both sides of the political divide. Right. So it's about political ideologies, it's about political discussion, it's about trying to create a political culture. And even in the US, when you find a discussion between the Democrats and the Republicans, it's as heated as you'd find it here. I think that and now that we will go back to talking about the BBI, Kenyans will be very excited about it. But I think that there's other discussion that will come up. If you look at the Business Daily on the front page, consumers to feel the pinch of paying rice and milk farmers more. Right. That is also a discussion that I think is going to come up a little bit more in the coming days. Right.
And we'll be touching on that as well, because even as we've seen, it's created a bit of a stir online with the price of tomatoes going up, and it's become even a hashtag. We're talking about bei ya nyanya being a bit prohibitive to get for your daily meal. But before you do that...
this is not fair. This is not fair. A whole day like this, to start fighting our farmers from day one. Right. Why do people think that farmers should not get a better return for their produce, and that the consumer should not foot the bill? Right. Why should a consumer who doesn't know how to grow rice just eat it as if it is a simple thing? Let them pay for it. The farmers suffer.
No, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And you see, when we are reminded of how agriculture worked in the 70s and the 80s, and how it was the bedrock of our economy, it's because back then the farmer, felt first of all, he was understood, and the farmer was paid for what he was worth. Today, the first thing we want to argue and bargain is food. You know, we must go back to paying where the energy comes from. What has actually destroyed this market is having brokers. And those are the people who I think who should be in committee on a daily basis. These people don't have farms, they don't have anything. All right? They only stand in the middle to ensure that they get your product and they get your consumer. They hit this consumer and they hit the farmer. And they end up making the big money. And that's why you remember some time ago, a few months ago, the president was so cross when it came to dealing with brokers. And he was saying, actually, he used the very same words. He said they don't have farms, they don't understand anything about planting. Right. All they do is just wait like sharks to get a product from the farmer and go and say they've gotten a buyer somewhere. So, you know, we need to delink those brokers. And I think those are the people who will be making our food prices go up.
We'll be talking about that in a bit as we jump into that. Because if we go there, we'll completely move off what we're talking about. And we'll be coming to that, of course, because it's a key issue in your area as well, having very many farmers there. But I want us to move to page 14 of our Daily Nations. Therein, a pictorial put right there, and as you can see, closing the door on the legacy that was Moi, as Uhuru Kenyatta does this. And as you can see, the caption being put right there, sigh, now where were we? And behind him you can see the Deputy President in a caricature and the former PM arm wrestling, and it's all about the BBI report. Does this report go forward? What does this mean for something that ostensibly should be uniting? But from every depiction we get, it's a tussle, it's a division more than a bridge that should be built.
No. Let me tell you something, Jeff. If BBI is not going to unite all Kenyans, then it's not worth talking about. All right?
Has it delivered so far from what you say?
It is starting to talk about building bridges. I know it can receive some resistance from the word go. I understand that, you know. But as we move along, as we study this document, and by the way, I've read that document. I've read that report 2 times. In fact, I want now to start from the end coming to the front. You know, sometimes it gives you a better understanding of the whole spectrum. But let me tell you something. You may not agree with some of the things that are in BBI, but let me tell you, overall, it is a very good document because it actually shows a roadmap on how we can make things. I mean, when you look at things like the rights of a patient, who doesn't want that? All right? So many people are actually held in hospitals because they cannot pay a bill. All right? But this time in BBI, if it's implemented, if such things are implemented, actually, the patient will have their own rights. Not only that, you know, I know we cannot, govern too much on morality, and people, you know, have agreed on this. But there are so many things that we can do to ensure that we have a national ethos, and people have been calling it day and night. What do we do? What do we do to unite this country? The rhythm of, you know, bringing our country to a near collapse after every 5 years, what do we need to do? What do we need to strengthen? Which institutions must be strengthened? I think when we come back to BBI, I do not think we need to follow the direction that he was following earlier on. I think it has to be first and foremost a uniting factor. We need to talk about BBI united. It is very easy. When we remove the ceiling of politics out of it, it is a very good document. By the way, do you know most people have actually agreed on BBI? We've agreed on BBI. So what I feel the political pundits, what they are really trying to do is to see who emerges on top of selling BBI, and we are going to lose it at that. Let us focus making BBI our Njiko-driven process, and tell you what, we will get it right.
Dr. Halwale, because even at the end of the day, it has become a political process, and what people are saying is that no one has said that the BBI report is bad. Everyone agrees that it's a good document, as you have heard, but still, as you can see, anytime we talk about it, there are so many divisions in rallies, in different political discourse. Where are we getting it wrong? Because at the end of the day, it is supposed to bring us together. It's not quite doing that right now.
BBI is a very good document. And like my brother here, the people who might be opposing it are either the ones who have not read it, or the ones who have read it and have been bitten by the bug of the Orange Democratic Movement and a few elements in Jubilee. Does it not surprise you, Kenyan, that you can hold a rally in Kisii, Kakamega, and Mombasa and Kitui and talk about a document whose copy is not circulating anywhere in that crowd of thousands of people? And the people who are in that rally are expected to give their views to the so-called conveners. People from whom, even if they had been given an opportunity to give those views, are people who have not read the document. To succeed, the BBI will have to do the following. One, I don't know which power will be used because the people doing those rallies are enjoying their constitutional rights. Those rallies of BBI must come to an end. The second thing is that the BBI team of experts should go into the driving seat, go out to the public the way they did in round one, and take the views of the people. And the third thing which must be done is that allow people to read the document. In fact, I'm reading an ulterior motive that the reason why these copies have not been made accessible in an easy way to members of the public. Granted, it is on the website, right, but many of Wanjiku's, Hadialas, and Aminas don't go to the website. You need to do what Kibaki did in the lead up to the Constitution of 2010. We all remember the Blue Book. It was everywhere. We need to make it that way. So the reason why it's not being done is because the document that we are discussing is a good one. The proponents of the so-called round two of BBI do not want people to come and defend this document. They want to sell to them a different document that has got an expanded executive, which, by the way, is not in the BBI of Bomas. Right. That has got a third tier of government for regional governments, for governors who are supposed to be happily going home. It's not there. So they don't want people to come with that knowledge. Right. So basically, if, for argument's sake, one was to take those steps, it would be moving towards making BBI successful and acceptable.
Right. Millie, we have the steering committee that seems to be playing catch-up with politicians who took this document, ran with it, have done 3 rallies before the steering committee has started. How do they gain, get back to the steering wheel of this particular process? Because it seems like from where it is, it's the politicians playing lead, then the steering committee follows up and tries to bring some sanity to that particular area as they move along. And it really should be the other way around.
I think, to the contrary, I admire that steering committee. I think the mix they have of professionals and politicians in there has added value to their ability to be able to deliver. I say this because, remember when BBI started, there was a lot of talk across the country that where are these people? How come we don't know they're going round? And they were going round, but they were keeping it low-key. Then now, because of the hue and cry, at the right moment, they started advertising the fact that they were in certain counties, and so people felt that they had been seen, and they'd already covered quite a number of counties. Currently, I know for a fact that they are receiving a lot of information from different people. I have even been invited in one of the forums that I sit in for us to go and present our views to them, to the Secretariat. So I know that they are doing work quietly. I think they're giving the politicians the opportunity to be able to shine. You must accept that as a country, there's a very big difference of anyone, even if it is a religious leader. Maybe the religious would come number 2. Anyone other than a politician standing up to talk about a document, the amount of attention that it receives, the amount of buy-in or lack of buy-in that it would receive will depend on the politicians. We listen a lot to our politicians in this country. So I think they're giving the politicians that opportunity to be able to sell that much wider and much more effectively than any technical committee would be able to do. Because again, if you look at the politicians who sit in the BBI, they are not the very loud politicians who have got a lot of they're quiet, technical politicians. So I think that it is a good thing that they're doing. And by and by, we are going to be able to see that work has been going on. Right. That is my feel of it from my engagement with the process. Right. Yes.
Honorable Jude, Dr. Lale has said that probably the only way to bring this project back on track is to remove the politicians from it, stop the political rallies, and make sure that now it's a civic education process that's happening and not shouting matches at political rallies. Because right now all we are seeing is, are you for the referendum or not? That's a big question being asked as we move around, and we've completely thrown aside all the other chapters and what is actually in the document. Do you think it's possible?
Nothing can be further from the truth than that. The rallies are important. One, they're showing us our politicians in true colors. like he said, there are those politicians who are asking for a third tier of government just because they don't see where they're going to fit in after their term is over. So they are creating a position where we will have some kind of federal system and regional governments. Already we are feeling that the counties were too many. So if we add a third tier of government, really I don't think it is important. It will not help us to develop in a better in a better way. Two, the BBI meetings are a political process. They sensitize the people. When we go to coast, we see what are the needs of the coastal people. When you go to Kitui, what are the needs of Kitui people? And that is where the politicians from the region are given an opportunity to talk to their people and express the needs of the people. But I agree with Daktari that our Wajikos have not read the document. They're just relying on what they hear in the meeting. And I think time has come when this document should be circulated so that everybody has an access. But I think the ulterior motive here is we may end up with a document that is different from what was launched in Bomas of Kenya. And that is what we have to be very, very careful about. We don't want it to be mutilated in such a way that instead of being a uniting document, then it will be a document that will divide us further. But if this process is well handled, I have not had anybody who have pronounced that he's not supporting BBI. Everybody supporting BBI. It's only that some are supporting as they move this side. Others are supporting as they move this side. So the idea here is to bring them together so that they support as they move in the same direction. Right. And that is the only way that the BBI will be able to be an instrument that is going to help our country to be more united. Okay, Dr. Lole, Honorable John said something about there being an ulterior motive, and you started with that a school of thought as well. How do we get then a different version from the Bomas on that we got if we have faith in the steering committee? Because they're going around validating what ostensibly the people want in the document. How does this happen? Are there some people within the committee who might fiddle with this particular document? How does it end up being totally different from what we saw launched at Bomas, from where you stand?
You know, there's everything wrong with what they are doing. Let's use the word validation, which is the word they appear to use to justify what they are doing. Validation. Assuming that it is the BBI team of experts which is doing validation, right, how would they validate their own work? Are they doubting? If there was anybody to do validation, then the person to invite is somebody else who wants to be satisfied that the document by the team of experts was drawn from the people's views, and therefore that person validates. Right. So from the word go, even the PBI team of experts itself should not be the one doing the so-called validation. On the other hand, if you allow the other players who have now emerged to be in charge of validation, you now run the greater risk that they will now rewrite the BBI document to now introducing the things that they missed in the Bomas document. Right. Yeah.
I think relying on that word validation could lead us in the wrong direction, because I don't think they are validating. The document that was launched in Bomas of Kenya was not written in a legal language. It's written as proposals. These are the things that Kenyans want. I think the team now has the mandate to go to the next level and put those proposals in a legal language that can come to Parliament, and then it is changed to law, or a document that can be taken for a referendum. Because if you read the whole document, you will not see what question will be asked in the referendum. So I think those are the things that the committee is tasked to do.
And just very quickly, I think, by the way, I'm not against the rallies that are happening. My only concern is the very same concern that the president had. The president has talked about this process being hijacked by politicians. And there's a reason as to why the president talks about that. And that's why every time when you see the rallies, this is what I keep saying, and I'll keep insisting this until we get it right. Knowledge must precede the excitement in rallies.
Are we seeing that?
No. And that is why Kenyans must do all they can And the government must assist where possible. And the committee within BBI must also assist to have Kenyans come into contact with this knowledge. All right? Knowledge is the only thing that will bring the required change that we are talking about. All right? And that's why in Latin you'll see when we talk about scientia potentia est, knowledge is power. Because thereafter, the next stage we are going to experience is transformation. All right? So it is good when we are talking about rallies happening. But as we talk about rallies, there has to be a key element that Wanjiko will be left with. It is the knowledge behind BBI. If that is not guaranteed, then I am telling you, you are going to leave a very confused lot. That is why, again, I go back to what the president said. He knew what he was talking about when he said the last thing he would want happening to BBI is for the process to be hijacked by politicians. And we must start querying and asking, what did the president see? You see, when politicians are going to take this up, it may turn for their personal being. And they may start pushing things in a different direction. But for Wanjiko, all she needs is a document that is transformative and that one that is going to assure the ills that she is experiencing in society are transformed to a level whereby life is going to change. But if BBI is going to just produce rallies where people are just abusing, one another, where political undertones are the play of the day, then I think we are going to lose it. What must continue happening is the transformation in which BBI promises. How do we realize that transformation?
Okay, very quickly,
I think that one thing we must not forget is that only a fool does not change their mind. One of the things that happened, even in the current constitution that we have, remember, even the draft that was produced by experts was changed. The Naivasha meeting, a lot of amendments were made to it, even at that point. And they tried to have changes when it was being passed in Parliament. We recall that. I think that every document, the more you engage with it, the more that more people come out. Remember, even when BBI report was launched, a number of people were stating that they never did interact with that team. So it is after the launch that they were hoping to get an opportunity to be able to interact with the team. So we must not lock out all these views and opinions that are coming from people, even if they're coming late in the day. And we must find room for them. I think that we have noted that the rallies have been increasingly trying to improve. We know, for example, there was a meeting and then a handover from I think in Kakamega when they met before, in Mombasa, the same thing, when the leaders met before, the day before, and had something to present for the coast region. So that gives space before the hype and the joy of the rally, which Kenyans enjoy. If you hold a rally here with politicians, even today, people will find their way there because they enjoy those rallies and they like to listen to their politicians. But before that, we have that session when people are able to do that. And I think increasingly having more of that with the rallies that people enjoy and gives us something to talk about for the next 3 days after that rally, we are still going to get there. But we must not be very rigid, in my opinion, and say that the document must remain as static as it is, because more people are engaging with it now. And any document changes, even the Katiba after we passed it, even at the point of passing it, we said 65% of it is good or 80% of it is good. Let us change the other after we implement it. When we started working with it, there have already been a couple of amendments that have been done to it from the last, what I call Jubilee 1, 2013 to 2017. And we know that there have been proposals to amend it further. So let's just look at it and have an engagement as a nation.
Okay, we'll just come back after the break on that particular heat. Don't do that. We take a short break. We're back on the side. Of course, we wrap up how we move forward with this particular process of the BBI and how we make it more people-driven. Also, something Dr. Alwale had actually pointed out, that the fact that now Gideon Moi moving forward has to be his own political person. What does that actually mean on the ground? But we also touch on the economy. Consumers feeling pinch of paying rice, milk farmers more, even as we talk about that and look at the big four agenda where there should be some food security. What's going wrong? Where's the ball being dropped? We discuss that after the break. This is K24 This Morning.